All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Horn Takes podcast. Your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Tuesday, folks. I hope all y'all had a very Merry Christmas. We had a great Christmas at the house. We had the kids, which our daughter has not lived with us for a couple of years now. She is a junior in college. Be finishing up next spring for underground, and then off to dental school for her. And then our son's a senior, so we don't ever hardly see him anymore. But we had a great Christmas, nice, quiet Christmas at the house. I got a couple of really cool things that I wanted to show you guys. This first one, I believe, is some kind of custom thing, but it's a Smells Like a Longhorns Win candle. Check that out. It says Smells Like a Longhorns Win. Smells like lavender, which is also a Longhorns win. I love lavender. So I like that. That'll be a good office edition. And this other thing I got is really cool. This was like one of those special deals, right? Where you notice something and you mention that you notice it and your wife gets it for you. I got two of them, two different styles, but this is a genuine leather beer holster. So you clip this thing on your belt, and it'll hold a 12-ounce can or a 12-ounce bottle. And this will come in really handy tailgating. So Mrs. Santa was really good to me this year for Christmas. Anyways, we hope you guys had a great Christmas. This will be our last show until 2024. Today we're going to do the Trace Otra games, bowl games that matter. And then we'll have our 4 keys and a prediction for the Sugar Bowl. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Give us some likes, however you guys want to support. I know we'd appreciate it. And those things don't cost you anything. If you just like to listen to podcasts, we obviously stream live to YouTube every single show. If you guys don't like to watch stuff, you can't watch stuff, but you can listen. I know this is a traveling time of season. I know a lot of Longhorns are probably traveling down towards New Orleans here in the next few days. So it'd be a great opportunity to check out a new podcast. You can find us at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or anywhere you get your podcast. I know we're on Apple Podcasts. I think we're on Google. I think we're on Spotify. I'd have to check. Trace Otra games, bowls that matter edition. We haven't done a Trace Otra game since the Independence Bowl. And the only reason we did that is because Texas Tech was in the Independence Bowl. And honestly, we needed some content for a show. So I figured we'll do the Independence Bowl. So we're putting our 29-15 season record on the line with 5 more games. We're going to try to predict these games, folks. The first game we're going to look at is the Texas Bowl. You got number 20 Oklahoma State versus unranked Texas A&M. This will be December 27th, which is tomorrow night, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Aggie is a 2-point favorite. Despite all the mass exodus on that Aggie roster, they're still a 2-point favorite over ranked Oklahoma State. Someone called this the Little Brother Bowl. I saw somebody else call it the Great Value Red River Shootout. I laughed really, really hard at that one. That is funny. Good stuff. Roughly a quarter of the Aggie roster is sitting this one out. And I don't know all the guys on these rosters. So, you look up and down. There's a website that actually tracked all the opt-outs and things like that for these bowl games. One, I don't know how accurate it is. Two, I don't follow all these teams religiously. We spent a lot of time traveling this year. Generally, I sit at home with 3 TVs on. Actually, when it's warm, and you can still be in the pool, I'll have 5 TVs on. I have the 2 out by the pool and then the 3 underneath the patio. And I watch football. That's like my thing. Saturdays, football. Watch it from the time I get up till as long as I can stay up, which is the older I get is getting less and less. But we've traveled so much this year with the Horn Takes Traveling Roadshow, and we've made some long trips. So we've missed a lot of games. And I just don't know who all these other people are like I normally would. But anyhow, lots of people sitting this one out. Lots of people sitting lots of bowl games out. I think the notable ones in this one for Texas A&M are Max Johnson, Evan Stewart, and Walter Nolan. I don't even know if Max Johnson, I feel like he was the starting quarterback. I feel like I saw them play a couple times this year early in the season, just briefly, like hanging out at a bar, something like that. I seem to remember like Max Johnson and his brother having connection. His brother's a tight end, I believe. Who he's also in the portal. So all 3 of those guys, and those are big names. They're in the portal and they're gone, and I don't think they're playing in this game. And the interesting thing, that 2022 class that A&M signed that just beat the brakes off of any class that's ever been signed in the history of recruiting, or at least the history of recruiting services, is now almost entirely gone. I don't know how many players remain. Just an absolute disaster going on. I mean, I think, if you're an Aggie, forget like trying to win championships and shit like that. You guys just need to not be the laughing stock of college football for a while, and just not be the biggest disappointment ever. Is that to me? That's what A&M needs to do, and I think that's why they hired Elko. I mean, I don't think Mike Elko is going to come in there and they're going to win a bunch of championships, but I bet you they're stable. Like they're going to be what they are, and there's not going to be this big circus surrounding the program that there has been through these whole Jimbo Fisher years. And again, I think that's what A&M needs right now. Oklahoma State, I believe, still has Ollie Gordon. I think there was some talk that he may portal out right after the Big 12 championship game, but since it said he's staying, I'm going to take Oklahoma State for the upset in this one. I think Oklahoma State gets this one done 27-20 over Aggie. If it was a full Aggie team that played the majority of the games this year, I wouldn't do that. I think, especially defensively, that A&M team was really, really good. But I don't think a lot of those guys are playing in this game. I think most of those guys are portaling out. And I just don't know how good they're going to be. Quick side note, that's like that's the danger of these bowl games anymore. You just didn't used to see this where, I mean, that website I'm talking about, it lists out both teams for each bowl and how many people are sitting out. There's guys sitting out for Liberty who are playing in a New Year's Six bowl. Like those guys are never going to get a chance to play in a New Year's Six bowl again, probably. And yet there they are sitting out. What is it? The Fiesta Bowl. So I don't know, man. Just a weird time for college football. It's almost impossible to know who's going to win these bowl games. And we'll do our best. So we got Oklahoma State 27 over A&M at 20 points. Then we'll jump down to the Alamo Bowl. Number 12, Oklahoma versus number 14, Arizona. That's December 28th at 8:15 p.m. These are all Central Times on ESPN. Arizona is a 2.5-point favorite. And that doesn't seem crazy to me. The real reason I picked this game is just because they're so closely ranked. We talked all season in Trace Otra games how we wanted to pick the games that mattered, like the ones that had closely ranked teams, games that were bigger than just the game themselves, kind of like these these rivalry games, or these games where if Team X does Y, then they move on to that. We want to do games that matter. These are two really closely ranked teams. I don't know really much about Arizona at all. I know they held. They didn't even hold Washington. I think it was Arizona State that held Washington to almost nothing earlier this year. But they get a crack at kind of like Big 12 royalty before they actually join the Big 12 next year. They'll never probably get a chance to play Oklahoma again. Arizona has 10 opt-outs. I don't know how bad that is for them because, again, I don't know shit about Arizona. OU has 14, though, and they got their starting quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, leading rusher, Tawi Walker, and just a bunch of offensive linemen. And I know one for sure was a guy that the Oklahoma faithful were very high on, interior offensive lineman. So, man, I just don't know how good Oklahoma's going to be in this game without their quarterback. Now, they do have Jackson Arnold. I think that's his name. Jackson Arnold, 5-star freshman quarterbacks. Played a little bit this season. But I like Arizona in this game. I think they're good against the run. Their scoring defense is really, really good. They only gave up 20 points per game, and in the Pac-10, that's pretty good. I like Arizona to win this one. I think they would get this one done 30-27. I don't know. We'll find out. Game number 3 is the Cotton Bowl. Number 7, Ohio State against number 9, Missouri. This one's December 29th, 7 p.m. on ESPN. Ohio State, just a 1-point favorite in this game. And I think it's a big opportunity for Missouri. Missouri has got a little bit of momentum this year. They beat a pretty decent K-State team. They trounced Tennessee. They played a pretty close game against Georgia. They've done okay in recruiting. Their recruiting class is not that good, but they have signed, they have stolen some big guys, some big names. Supposedly one of the best defensive linemen in the country is going there. So it's a good chance for them to get a win in a big bowl game against a blue blood to kind of keep that momentum going. It's one of the most storied bowl games of bowl season, the Cotton Bowl. Both teams, again, with a lot of opt-outs, but it looks like Ohio State got hit the hardest. Losing their quarterback, losing some defensive guys. There was a whole lot of talk, and I didn't really dig that much into it, but there was a whole lot of talk about what's going on at Ohio State. Apparently, they lost a bunch of contributors to the portal. So I don't know. And guys that you wouldn't, not like grad transfer guys. So I don't know what's going on up there. All I know is I like that Ohio State defense. I think it's pretty solid. I think Ohio State's going to win this one 24-17. Next game is the Orange Bowl. This game absolutely doesn't matter. FSU is without most of their team, it seems. Georgia is not far behind. They have a lot of guys in the portal. So this game doesn't matter at all, which is really, really sad. And it's sad how quickly, and I know I don't want to get too far on my soapbox here, but we talked about this before. It is sad how quickly NIL and the portal had just absolutely destroyed bowl season. And I'm not talking about like corporate money grab bowl season, like the games that happened 2 weeks ago, like the Cheetos fucking, I don't know, Indiana Bowl and shit like that. I'm talking about these real big time bowl games that used to matter. They don't matter anymore because there's like 50 players off of both of these teams that are opting out of this bowl game. Florida State's still fucking crying because they're not in the college football playoff. The guys that do show up are just about to catch like the biggest ass beating they've ever had, unless Georgia just completely doesn't care, which I guess is possible. It's just, again, really sad. The Orange Bowl should matter. It absolutely doesn't. So I'm not even giving a score prediction on this game. Y'all can both go get bent for all I care. Fiesta Bowl, number 8, Oregon versus number 23, Liberty. January 1st, 12 p.m. on ESPN. Oregon's a 17-point favorite in this game. Liberty is undefeated in its inaugural Conference USA season. I don't know much about this group. I know they rush the ball for over 300 yards a game. They throw for over 200 yards a game. They seem like an offensive juggernaut. They score a lot of points. They don't have a very good scoring defense, though. Oregon's Oregon. To me, the score of this game kind of depends on how interested Oregon is in this game. I absolutely think Oregon wins this game, like no matter what. I think Oregon's going to win. I think it's going to be 31-20. Rose Bowl, number 1 Michigan versus number 4 Alabama. This is January 1st, 4 p.m. on ESPN, the first of the college football playoff semis. Michigan's a 1.5-point favorite, and they've been a 1.5-point favorite for most of the time that this game has had a line on it. I think the original line was -2.5, and then it moved down to 1.5, and that's where it's kind of stood. Big time battle of the blue bloods, or some blue bloods. And again, these guys are playing for a spot in the national championship game a week from January 1st down in Houston. You look at these teams offensively. Michigan's throwing the ball 218 yards per game, rushing the ball 161 yards per game. They score 36 points per game, almost 37. Bama, 228 yards per game through the air, 172 yards on the ground, 35 points per game offensively. So really pretty evenly matched offensively just on the surface. And then defensively, I think you got to give a slight edge to Michigan, although that Alabama defense is really good. Michigan's given up 152 yards through the air per game, 87 yards on the ground. They only give up 9 points a game, and that is just staggeringly good. I've talked shit about how the Big Ten offenses aren't that great, and I still believe that they're not. However, 9 points a game defensively is just outstanding. And then you flip the script on Bama. They're 188 yards per game through the air, so not that many more than Michigan gives up. Pretty good chunk on the ground, though, 124 yards per game. That's not bad, but it is quite a bit more than what Michigan gives up. And then they double up Michigan, 18 points given up per game by this Bama defense. Again, still pretty close. I mean, I think if you look at these two teams statistically, certainly the defense is where Michigan separates itself from Bama. And again, how much of that is just the Big Ten being trash offensively versus how much of that is really just, man, Michigan's just really freaking solid. I think they're pretty damn good. We're definitely going to find out on Monday how good this Michigan defense is. And I think you got to love this defense. I mean, 9 points a game is just insane. On the flip side, though, I think you got to love Nick Saban with a month to prepare. Saban and Alabama have just been an absolute staple in the college football playoff since its inception. But Harbaugh and Michigan are on their third straight appearance. And this is a tough one for me. Michigan's never advanced to the final. It's third time a charm for them. I don't know. Bama is a very, very talented team. We've said that all season long. Texas goes in there, beats Bama in week 2, and everybody starts talking about the sky is falling at the University of Alabama. Nick Saban is done. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we maintain the whole time, man, this is a really talented roster. You can't just turn your back on them because they lose one game against a top 25 team at home. And then they had that big win over Georgia. And I think that was big for the team. It'll be really interesting to see what that does for the team psychologically, because this will be another tough test for them, this Michigan team. Does that make them a little overconfident, or does Nick Saban pull all the right strings and press all the right buttons again to get this group refocused on the goal in hand? I don't know. We'll have to see. They obviously are not unbeatable. We talked about how Texas beat them down in Tuscaloosa. They needed a big-time miracle against Auburn in the Iron Bowl a few weeks ago. And Auburn rushed for 244 yards in that game. And that's certainly an outlier. Don't get me wrong. We're not predicting Michigan or anybody else to go rush for 244 yards against Bama. But it proves that it's possible. And if Bama gives up 244 yards against Michigan on Monday in the Rose Bowl, they're going to have a long afternoon, I think. I think this game's going to be really close. It's going to be really low scoring comparatively, relatively. But I think Michigan makes a play late, and I think Michigan advances to their first college football playoff championship game ever. Michigan 17, Alabama 16. So there's our Trace Otra games for the bowl games that matter. We will certainly come back next week when we get back from New Orleans, and we will recap all of this. Let's get into these 4 keys and a prediction for the Sugar Bowl. Key number 1 for me, tackle on the perimeter. Penix and company feed off these really quick throws to the boundary, and then all the yards after catch they can. So the interesting thing about what Washington does is they don't like to hold on to the ball. They only give up 11 sacks all season. And the reason for that, I mean, I think the O-line is good. Don't get me wrong. But they just get the ball out. So Penix is looking, pre-snap, where can I go with this football? Let me get the ball delivered quickly and accurately, and let's let these guys make a play after they catch the ball. Occasionally, they sprinkle in a long ball, which Penix is very, very good at throwing as well. So Texas is going to need to play really, really tight coverage on the outside, and then they're going to have to play the ball on those long throws, not get so caught up in where the receiver is. Trust yourself, turn around, find the ball, make a play on the ball. And then when they are those quick little hitch routes or those little out routes or a lot of little screen stuff they like to do, you got to make tackles one-on-one. We've seen Texas be really, really good at that this year, and we've also kind of seen them struggle at times with that. One thing I'll be looking for by this Texas defense is to see where the cornerbacks are actually lining up. If I start to see them moving off of the wide receivers very much, you're about to see Michael Penix Jr. just absolutely pick them apart with quick throws. Like, I'm talking catch and throw and guys making plays after they've caught the ball. So for Texas, they need to play a little bit tight, and they certainly need to make tackles on the perimeter. Texas also needs to win the money downs on defense. We talk about the money downs all the time on this show. We got to win on first down. And to me, winning on first down means any play that's like 3-4 yards or less. I think that's a positive play for the defense on first down. And then obviously you want to force Washington into third downs. The longer, the better, right? Like if Texas could manage to knock, I just don't know that Texas is going to get enough pressure to get a lot of sacks in this game. So to me, the second best thing is batting the ball. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of excited to see how this Texas D-line can do against this good offensive line from Washington. They're I don't know what the name of the award is, but supposedly the best offensive line in the country. And then just the fact that they get the ball out so quick, there's just not a lot of time to get home. But if you can force them into third and longs, you get more opportunity to do that. And then obviously they got to get off the field on those third downs. Washington is very, very good on third down offense. 48% of the time they convert. And Texas is very, very good at third down defense. They hold teams, or teams only convert against Texas 26% of the time on third downs. And I think this one is this stat could very well be like the stat of the game. It could be the stat that determines who wins this football game. Third down defense, third down offense, third down period. So for Texas, win on first down, get to third down, and win. That's a huge key for this Texas defense. Offensively, they need to start hot. We've seen Texas explode offensively earlier in the last couple games of the season. When you can score like that and you get such a big lead so quickly, it makes things so much easier on the defense. They already have the lead. They don't have to worry about, making. I think the longer a game stays tight or scoreless or tied, the tougher it is on the defense. The more pressure builds on the defense to be perfect. If you have a lead, you don't have to be perfect. You can just go play. And then if you can score enough early in the game, build yourself a little lead, you kind of make the other team one-dimensional. And we talked about it before this last week as we were talking about this game. One of the 10 questions we had was, one of the four big questions we had about this game was, could Texas stop the Washington running game and just really make them one-dimensional? Which we know Penix is really good. We know some of those wide receivers are really good. But we think making them one-dimensional and making them throw the ball actually makes it easier on this Texas defense. Slow start obviously can put you in the hole. The longer you're in the hole, the more everybody starts trying to make plays. Everybody starts forcing things. Everybody feels that pressure. Some teams play really well under that pressure. We haven't really had to see Texas in those pressure spots that much this season, but for the majority, they've played well when they've been in those types of situations. I expect Sark to really get after Washington's passing defense. They're 120th in the country. So I think the script is very, very passy early on. And again, if they can build points, they're going to be in a really good spot. Texas has surrendered a lead 2 times this season against Bama and against Oklahoma. 1-1 in those games. And when they have the lead, they just keep the lead. So really important for Texas to go start fast offensively, get a lead, and play complementary football the rest of the game. Final key to this game, let the running backs eat. We've talked about how talented this running back room is since way before the season, really. A lot of people didn't know who Jaden Blue was headed into this game. All of the hype was around Jonathan Brooks and then C.J. Baxter. Everybody knows who Keelan Robinson is. A lot of people didn't know who Jaden Blue is. But this Texas, and then obviously, Jonathan Brooks goes on and has just an amazing season. He's up for the Doak Walker Award. He's the nation's leading rusher. He's a whole lot of things you want to see your running back be before he goes down with a torn ACL in the TCU game. But since that game, Texas averaged over 200 yards per game on the ground. So they're still chugging away, still plugging away, still making plays. You have to assume C.J. Baxter is going to be healthy after a month off. He's going to give you some size and some toughness. He's a bigger back, just kind of a different runner than, say, a Jaden Blue or a Keelan Robinson. So I think having him healthy and letting him go in there and bang around a little bit is a good compliment to a guy like Jaden Blue, who has a lot of good vision and just speed, just absolute speed to spare. That kid can score from anywhere on the field. If you give him a seam, he is gone. You better have some bodies in the way if you want to corral Jaden Blue. And then, of course, Keelan Robinson, coming off a 2-touchdown day in the Big 12 championship game, he is certainly capable of taking it to the house with a quickness. He scored, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games, one on a kickoff return, one on a, one of it was a pass play, but they considered it a running play because it was behind the line of scrimmage, the pass. So he's got 3 rushing touchdowns and a kickoff return for a touchdown in the last 2 games. I think the running backs will get their chances early in this game. I mean, again, we just mentioned Sark's going to want to attack Washington where they're most vulnerable, I think, which is that pass defense. So we're going to see a lot of passing early on in this game. But I think there'll be these key spots where Sark uses the running game. And if the O-line and the running backs can produce early in this game, it's going to get really tough on this Washington defense. Bonus key, win the situations. We talked about this all season long, and particularly the last drive of the first half, the first drive of the second half. Those are so important. Win those, and you put yourself in a great position to go on and win the football game. It is time for our Sugar Bowl prediction. Penix Jr. in that combo of McMillan, who McMillan's kind of like their Xavier Worthy. He can certainly get down the field, but they use him a lot around the line of scrimmage, get him the ball in space. And then Odunze, who's that big target on the outside. You almost can't play through him because he's so big. He can get down the field, get up and get one-on-one balls, 50-50 balls. He's really good at it. That combination of those 3 guys against our secondary is really got me worried about this game. I think Texas is big enough and physical enough on the corners to deal with Odunze, but I don't know that they do. Does that make sense? Like, they certainly are capable of fighting with him and knocking balls down, keeping him from catching passes. They're certainly capable of running with him. But I think the question is, will they? And I think the teams that have been able to have some success against Washington defensively, that's what they've been able to do. So this Texas defense, especially those corners, they're going to have a really, really physical game for Texas to be successful. But if Texas figures out a way to slow that down, I think Texas could absolutely blow Washington right out of the water in this game. I'm not super afraid of Washington's rushing game. It's not non-existent, but I don't think Washington's going to be able to run the football against Texas. All that being said, I don't know how well Texas can corral that. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Washington gets the ball out quickly. It's hard to generate a pass rush against that. They attack the field in so many different places. Really, the only place they don't attack the field is over the middle of the field. It seems like, and this is just from very limited things I've watched, very limited games I've watched of Washington, and mostly just highlight type stuff. Doesn't look like they attack the field that much. Everything's around the perimeter. It's short, a lot of screen game, and then they go over the top to Odunze. And when they get one-on-one coverage, that's what they're going to do. So they attack a lot of different ways, and they put a lot of pressure on the defense. Conversely, though, I really, really like the matchup of Texas's offense, particularly that passing game against Washington's defense. They're 120th in the country. They give up 263 yards per game. We saw Quinn Ewers go for 3+ last season in this game, and they just missed a ton of opportunities down the field. It could have been a whole lot worse in this game. So I like Ewers and those wide receivers for Texas against this Washington defense. Both offenses, obviously, really, really dangerous. I think Texas has a clear advantage defensively. They can stop the run. They're not the best against the pass, but they've shown that they can make plays. They have a lot of interceptions. So this Texas defense can win battles against passing offenses. They've done it all season. One of our 4 big questions of the game headed into this one was, are we getting set up for a low-scoring game in the Sugar Bowl? Talk about both offenses. Really, really good. Talk about how we've seen it before, where you've got these really good offenses and for whatever reason, the defenses just step up. I think it might be a relatively low-scoring game, but in general, I do not think it's going to be. For me, it just feels like it's Texas's time. Sark has finally exploded through that 10-win barrier. Texas is playing some of its best football late in the season. This Texas team reminds me of this 2005 national championship team, especially offensively. There's just so much depth and so many different ways for this team offensively to hurt you. The Horn Takes podcast score predictor has Texas winning this game 35-28. I've got Texas winning this game 34-31. So there's your prediction. We got Texas, both of us, the machine and the man, have Texas winning this game over Washington. Close. Horn Takes Traveling Roadshow, y'all, is out the door. We will see y'all down in New Orleans. We're going to be hanging out down near Jackson Square for New Year's Eve, I believe. We'll be at the pregame party at the Manning's Bar and Grill on Monday. If you see us, come say hello. Hope you guys have a safe and happy New Year. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Won't cost you guys a thing. We appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com. with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. Let's go, baby. Let's go beat Washington down in the Sugar Bowl. Y'all get hooked.